When I was in school, the best way to make a boy cry was to tell him Ameya liked him. Because that was the level of humiliation that came from being the object of my affections. Because the fat girl likes you. Fundamentally speaking, you get the usual stuff. People open with their kink and they think that it's a compliment. And then the other thing that they do, which also really annoys me, is if you politely say, no, thank you, I'm not interested, suddenly all the swearing and the cursing and the rage will come out of it. And it's just like, oh, you fat, ugly, you should be so lucky. I just did you a favor by asking you out. Who do you think you are? There are like hundreds of hot women who want me. And I'm just like, okay, then why are you blowing up my inbox, bro? Bye. But it is extraordinarily challenging because you've been told your whole life that you're ugly. You've been made fun of your whole life. When I was in school, the best way to make a boy cry was to tell him Ameya liked him. Because that was the level of humiliation that came from being the object of my affections. Because the fat girl likes you. And that I don't think has changed at all.
When it came to the first sexual experience that I had, and I was literally guarding my virginity for that particular sexual experience, which was with a man I would then get married to. At the end of it all, his take was that he was a little disgusted with himself for being able to have sex with a body like mine. And that, of course, was very, very painful because it was a beautiful experience gone terribly sour. There was a lot of work that I did on myself, on reclaiming what I feel about my body, on actually standing in front of the mirror and touching different parts of my body and feeling how they feel and saying, I can accept you. You know, whether the world does or doesn't, I can accept you.
Everyone has insecurities about sex. Okay? Everyone does. Yes, with fat people, it's a lot worse because we're already carrying, like we're preloaded with insecurity. We're preloaded for rejection. We're ready for it. And so it makes us take some bad decisions. Like there are people I've slept with that I didn't really want to sleep with. But I was like, but maybe this is the last chance you'll ever have for sex. I mean, eventually I realized that that's not at all true. I didn't need to do that. But at the time, that's what it made me do. It makes people stay in abusive relationships.
The body positivity movement does fall short when it comes to the important piece, which is fat acceptance. As long as fat is a wrongness and you can be rejected for being fat, that affects every area of your life. And so there are then the eating disorders, there are then the mental health issues that come with it.
Yes, Sabyasachi has a plus-sized model who's a normally sized human being, right? She's just not super thin. The reality is nobody is still making clothes for people who are my size and shape. What I personally like about fat acceptance over body positivity is the fact that I don't need to love my body. Why do you have to love? It can be neutral. I kind of politely just ask questions. So, someone makes a fat joke, I'll be like, I don't get it. Can you explain the joke to me? Wait, so you think fat people falling down is funny? That's not really nice, no? Why is that funny? When it comes to advice, I once again smile very politely and say, I didn't ask for your opinion. And if I'm really upset, that opinion has no value. So please keep it to yourself. Thank you. And then I walk off. can be unhealthy, but it's not at all the immediate cause and effect relationship that people have sort of internalized in themselves, that you're fat, you will die. You're fat is the reason for everything. So when you are really fat, people tell you, oh, you can't exercise. Oh, you're too fat to do this. You're too fat to do that. And then you sort of sit in a hole and it just gets worse. But as an actual fact, you can be really fat and really fit.
There's also the statistic, which is that only 5% of the population is able to keep the weight off for more than 5 years after they've lost it. So that means 95% of us are basically setting us up for failure when we lose the body weight. What then happens is that because you're constantly on the struggle of losing weight, you keep changing diets, you keep using different exercise programs, your signals with your body basically get broken. So you're no longer hearing your body. And that is what is damaging. That is what then causes a whole lot of health issues. I'm not sure one can talk about losing weight without triggering some fat phobia somewhere. Because the whole need to lose weight or the whole need to change your weight from what it is basically mired in this whole thing that a certain weight is acceptable and a certain weight is not. Or a certain body is acceptable, a certain body is not. This whole concept of wanting to fit into that norm is what needs to be looked at.
Nobody is perfect. Nobody can be ticking all the boxes all the time. Sometimes it is fat phobic when you think about losing weight, but sometimes that's just because the fact that fat phobia is a fundamental function of our existence. So you can't help it. We don't know another way to negotiate the world, right? And I think it's important to be compassionate to yourself when you think about your body. It's important to, and therefore be aware of where it's coming from.
I can't get medical insurance because I have a certain BMI, right? So medical health, medical care, medical insurance, that needs a lot more conversation.
I still think we need to work on something even more fundamental than that, which is literally start using the word fat and stop, reclaim it. It's just a word. Don't demonize it the way it's demonized. And that might actually start to help to turn a lot of things. Honestly, I would say we don't have fat acceptance in India. We don't have it. On the one hand, your aunts will be like, oh my God, you become fat. But then they'll also be like, oh my God, you're not eating. We still shame people for their weight all the time. In the street, total strangers will give you weight loss advice. Kids will run and point and laugh. It's still very much part of our DNA in that sense.